Well, it's a pleasure to welcome to 100 Huntley Street Dr. John Tolson, a man who serves as a spiritual coach for some of North America's leading executives, celebrities, and athletes. And as you just saw, his newest book is called Take a Knee. John, welcome.
Thank you, man. Great to be here.
Now, for those who aren't that familiar with the term take a knee, maybe they didn't grow up being parts of sports teams and so on. Really describe what that's all about.
Well, a lot of times a coach will say at a practice, he'll pull the team together and he'll say, take a knee. And literally that means to get down on one knee, take your helmet off if it's football or if it's another sport, to kneel down, take a knee, and he'll usually give some instructions, give them a break or whatever. But that's kind of the background of the idea, take a knee.
Now, you have been involved, and we will digress a little bit later in the interview about some of the various involvements you've had with chaplaincy with sports teams and so on. But more recently, you've been a chaplain for the Dallas Cowboys. And so tell us about what that was like, and what was it like to maybe have them take a knee and you share with them?
Well, it's a little difficult to talk about the Cowboys right now because they're not in the playoffs.
Right.
But anyway, it was really a privilege to be with them. Of course, it's one of the storied teams in the NFL. And I really never thought I'd have that opportunity, even though I'd been with a lot of other teams in the past. But it was quite an experience, and I did a lot with them. I went to 2 or 3 practices a week to be with the guys, and afterwards, if they wanted to visit about something personal, I'd be available. And then I would do what they call a chapel before every game, and that would usually be the night before the game. And that's a 30-minute time when I would teach. And those talks were all on practical issues that these guys were facing every day.
And a number of guys would show up?
Well, you know, we probably, on a real good night, we'd have about 40 guys,
wow,
which all volunteer, and they had 53 players. So we had a wonderful turnout.
Great percentage, wow.
Great turnout. And then I did a little deal in the locker room where this little book, Take a Knee, came from, when I would ask all the players and coaches and trainers to take a knee. I'd come in the middle of the circle and do about a 2-minute little boom in your face, inspirational note, have a prayer, and that's where Take a Knee came from. But I traveled with the team. I was on the sidelines with the game, for the games, and was just available to be with the coaches, the staff, and the players during that time.
Wow. Now, the concept of take a knee can go far beyond just athletics. People can use that in their own lives as a devotional,
yep,
and even with a father-son type of thing.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's really, I think, one of the things that's on my heart now. A story comes out of from a friend out of Colorado, and he was telling me after I sent him a copy of the book, he said, John, I really appreciate the book. He said, let me tell you what I've done with it. He said, my son's in the 5th grade. And he said at night, we go through one of the chapters, and then the next day, he said, we go out, and our commitment is to try to do what that chapter says. So the one on being a servant, his son asked him, said, Dad, said, I've got a friend at school, my buddy's got cancer, and they're trying to raise money for him for this special treatment. So would that be serving if I raised some money to put in the pot? So he raised about $500 in 3 or 4 days, put it in the pot. And then also after his dad showed me a picture, I said, wow, this kid really gets it. He had shaved his head on his own so he'd identify with his buddy that had lost all his hair because of the treatment he was having. But where did that start? Because a dad and his son took a knee.
That's fantastic. And the book, by the way, is available in our e-store, and you'll be seeing info come up on the screen as we're talking. But let's back up a little bit. There's a reason why you have a particular bent toward athletes and ministering to them, because you were involved a lot in athletics growing up. Share some of your background.
Well, I came up in a family. My mom and dad were divorced when I was 2 years old. Never met my real father. Had a stepfather that came on the scene. I think I was around 7. But he really didn't know how to be a daddy. And so there's always been, and even I think to this day, a hole in my heart. The Heavenly Father's filled that very well, but there's still, humanly speaking, that hole in your heart when you don't have a daddy there. And I think one of the things that I was allowed to do was to play sports, and that really filled up a lot of my time in a good way. Nobody in my background had ever gone to college, much less even finish high school. So there wasn't a lot of impetus to go on and get an education, but I had that desire, and that's a whole other story sometime, but I was able to go to school in Arizona and play basketball and baseball on a scholarship. got my background in sports, physical education, and which opened up a whole lot of opportunities. But that's kind of a little bit of my background, sports-wise.
And I read somewhere about you, John, your personal best of free throws. How many in a row did you sink free throws?
Well, not long ago, I had a little contest and I did 127.
Wow. That's amazing.
I've gotten a lot of dinners with that. I shoot people and no.
That's great. If I can get 2 or 3 in a row, I'm very happy.
Love it.
So let's talk about some of your heart for men, reaching men particularly. And I know you've traveled, you've spoken to a lot of events like Promise Keepers and so on. And why have you been given such a heart by God for men?
Well, I think part of it was growing up without a father.
Yeah.
And then, so how do I learn to be a father? I didn't see a model in my family. The second thing is, I believe if you reach a man for Christ, you have a shot then at changing the man, the husband, the father, and therefore the family. You change the family, you can turn a whole nation around. And so my heartbeat for over 40 years has really been reaching men for Christ and then helping them to grow up in their faith and practically be equipped to know how to be a great husband and a great father and a great person and contributor in their community.
And then become, as Jesus challenged and commissioned us all to be disciple makers. That's an important part of it too, isn't it?
That's kind of a hot button with me, yeah. In our country, Ron, I think that I've interviewed some of the great pastors in our country at some of the greatest churches in our country in the United States, and I'm sad to say there's very little multiplication or disciple making in churches in America. And I really believe that God's strategy to change the planet is disciples who make disciples who make disciples. And I would say it even more dramatically this way. If we are not making disciples who are making disciples who are making disciples, we're simply not doing what Jesus told us to do.
Good point. We all need to be participating in that game plan that Jesus laid out for us. And it's so vital. So as we just wrap up here, maybe give a challenge. Maybe I'll get you just to look into that camera and challenge a man watching right now. And maybe it's a kind of one of those take a knee moments for someone watching right now.
Well, I'd say the greatest thing that a man can do is to take a knee before Jesus Christ. In Philippians chapter number 2, there are 4 downs. 4 downs in football, 4 downs in coming to Christ. Down 1, God looked down, saw the mess we were in, could have turned his back and said, you had your chance. But he didn't stop there. Down 2 is that Christ came down, lived a perfect life. But that wasn't all that he did. Down 3, he laid down his life on a cross. But the 4th down's up to you and me, and that is every knee must bow down. I got to come to the point where I cry uncle, give up, thank him for what he's done for me, and say, Jesus, come into my life. Help me to become the man you've always dreamed that I could be.
I've never heard that put that way. That's fantastic, those 4 downs. And what a challenge that is, I know, for someone watching right now. And if that's you, if that's spoken to your heart, why don't you give our prayer line a call? Why don't you talk to someone on this end of the phone line? It's available 24/7, 1-866-273-4444. We'd love to talk with you, pray with you about that decision of putting God at the center of your life and having those downs take place in your life. John, thank you so much for coming by and sharing with us, and congratulations on the new book and the cover. Now, tell us about who wrote the foreword and who is part of
the foreword is going to be by Tony Romo, who's the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys and one of the great legends of the Cowboys and the NFL. Roger Staubach wrote a challenge at the end of the book for men in America.
Wow. Okay, so you'll want to get a copy of that, and you can see the information for our e-store there and connect with us. Get a copy of Take a Knee, and God bless you on your ongoing ministry, John.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.